In this video, we're headed to Glorietta Adventure Camp to test the Stumpjumper 15. Woo! Is this really the best do-it-all trail bike like the internet tells us? Or is that just a bunch of marketing hype?
Going down chunk like that, I want it to be a little more composed.
In this video, I'm going to send the Stumpjumper off big jumps, throw it down gnarly rock chunk,
Oh, that was gnarly.
and even find some slippery snow.
Oh yeah.
Phew! Stick around to the end to see if the Stumpjumper 15 really lives up to the hype, or if you should keep searching for your next bike.
Oh man, this bike is... Oh, drop! That's a drop. Hey guys, today I am reviewing the Stumpjumper 15 in the Pro version or model. We're here at Glorietta in New Mexico. We've ridden here before, it's awesome. Perfect place to test this bike. Here we go. I've been wanting to review this bike for quite some time, ever since it came out, and has been kind of coined as the do-it-all trail bike. Everything from like fun poppy stuff all the way up to bike park. And this bike has a ton of adjustability, which we're gonna get into. But to start, I am 6'1" and I have the S4 size here, which is like at the top of the S4, but I tend to usually like a smaller bike. Some of the notable characteristics or geometry of this bike is it has a 64.5-degree head tube angle. It has a 475 reach. The bottom bracket height is 337. The seat tube angle is 76.5, and the chainstay length is 435.
Real quick, you can go on the Specialized website and play with all the geometry settings to see how they change. I have mine riding in the middle, high, and 29er, but it'd be really cool to do full tests at each one of these geometry settings.
The suspension is 150 in the front, 145 in the rear, and we have this fun Fox Genie shock, which I'm gonna get to play with a little bit. They gave me some spacers to do so.
At least that's what I thought. Hang around to the end to see what really happened with the Genie shock.
Shout out to High Desert Bikes and Peter specifically, who hooked me up with this brand new Stumpjumper 15. If you are in the Albuquerque area, definitely go check them out. They've got tons of these bikes, whether you're looking to demo acoustic or an e-bike, check them out. As for the components on this Pro Edition bike, the weight of this bike is about 31 pounds, and I think that's about it for the build. But let's go ride this thing, see how it rides.
We're spending 2 days at Glorietta Adventure Camp, where we're gonna test the Stumpjumper on flow, chunk, steeps, and everything in between.
Okay, first technical climb of the day on the Stumpjumper. Nope, wheel slipped out when I pulled myself off the saddle. All right, I kind of want to try that one more time. The first time I did this climb on my 2023 altitude, I got it.
Nice.
Got it, not too bad. Felt pretty easy that time, actually. Oh. All right, well, I don't need to redo that again. Whew, winded. We are at over 7,000 feet here. It is a little high. My initial climbing impressions are that I feel a little bit like the seat tube angle has me back on the bike. The bike is really snappy when I put pedal strokes in. I've hit my pedals 3 times, I think, so far. This bike does have the option for a mullet configuration. This is 29er all around. All right, something that I've noticed is that for riding through chunky stuff like this, the bike tends to track and pop around in these rocks real easy. So I have to be ready to correct my line choice.
For the first trail of the day, we're riding Chips and Salsa, which is loaded with tons of flow, berms, big jumps, and even a little bit of tech.
All right, getting started on the down, which is we're excited about. Uh-oh. Hopefully that's not a lot of what we get today. First jump. Might have to ride this a couple times to clean things up. Oh man. Woo. Oh man. This thing pops out of corners real nice. Whew. A lot of this actually might just be running too slow to have the speed for a lot of these jumps today, which is a bummer because these are really fun.
One of the coolest things about this trail is how you go from flow and jumps right into some gnarly tech that is super fun to play on.
Phew, it's a fun line.
Now I'm going to get to test the bike on a more precise section of the trail right through here. Handlebars felt a little bit twitchy, but it could be just needing to get used to the bike.
Phew. That's a big puddle. Oh, that's a good jump. I feel like we could probably clear that one. Ew, nice.
My initial jumping thoughts for the Stumpjumper are that it's very composed and predictable in the air and through the lips. I'm really liking how the suspension is feeling. Right out of the shop, just using my body weight for setup. But even a really nice suspension feel cannot make up for just bad riding.
Bad line.
As I suspected, a lot of this dirt was just too mushy to get enough speed to clear these jumps, but you could still feel the poppy characteristics of this bike. And if this dirt was a little bit drier, clearing these would be no problem.
Ooh.
After riding the first trail, I wanted to adjust the spacers in the Genie Shock, but I had no success at getting the can off, and after multiple attempts, I gave up. It's not my bike, and I did not want to do anything to mess it up, and it was feeling good anyway, but more on that later. For lap 2, we're tackling the Jagged Axe Trail, which is definitely going to turn up the scale on the chunk and the steeps.
All right, ready?
Yep.
So far, I'm really liking the suspension characteristics and feel of the Stumpjumper 15, but it hasn't been tested on a lot of steep rock chunk. So, here we go.
Woo. Oh, thank goodness for the slack head tube there. Good to be riding some chunky trails on this bike and see how things go.
This trail is not only chunky, but you have to have some very precise lines because there are ruts. If you don't hit them just right, it's easy to lose control. This is the first very technical section. It's steep and gnarly.
30. Roll.
I think I like straight. Woo!
You know, I didn't love that. It was slidier than I thought.
It is kind of gnarly.
And we thought that was bad, but it's just gonna get crazier right up here.
Well, this is disgusting. I mean, I guess it depends on what's after that big rock, but.
It all rolls. I think it just looks scarier than it is. Drop in!
There's definitely some consequence on that A-line, and riding this bike for the first time, I wasn't about to send it into something super gnarly. Not to mention, this B-line is also pretty darn gnarly in and of itself.
Phew. It was fine, but I actually lost my pedal on... There's a stump after you do the little slow speed drop that I hit my foot on. I also just... This bike feels really... Not really twitchy, but going down chunk like that, I want it to be a little more composed.
The Genie Shock feels plenty plush, but also supportive, so I don't think that is the reason the bike feels twitchy. I'm still trying to get my thumb on exactly what I'm feeling.
Whew. So I feel like going over this chunk like that is where I'm feeling a little bit unconfident, I guess. But it could be just that I need to ride this bike more, and it also could be that the bar width just makes the handling feel too twitchy.
My normal bar width is 780.
That was cool. That was something I probably couldn't have done on my altitude. Really poppy. Not sure where the line is. Still first time riding this trail. Oh man, this bike is... Oh, drop! That's a drop. So reactive to things like that, you can save yourself. Oh. Whoa! That was gnarly. I don't know where the trail goes, the line. Looks okay. Whew, that felt really good on the bike.
It'd be like the perfect place because you get jumps and flow.
Yeah.
And then you come out here, but you can feel what the bike feels like on some chunky, gnarlier stuff.
For sure.
How'd it feel through that?
It felt really good through that.
Interesting.
I'm wondering if it's just that it's not as steep. That could be something.
It would be interesting. So you can change the headset cup, right, to make it steeper?
Yeah, but I just feel like that would make it the bottom bracket lower. So I don't know that I want to do that.
The current bottom bracket height is 337, so it's only 2 millimeters. It might have been worth a try.
Yeah, so I like that. That was good. Oof.
What do we got?
Quick side note about Glorietta. This is one of the most fun trail systems that we've ridden in a long time. And if you're ever in New Mexico, I would highly recommend that you look them up. And you can camp right at the bottom of the trail system. Just send them an email and let them know what you're thinking.
Ooh, yeah. I don't know. I like having my bike be not smashed into things. All right, what does this look like here? Oh. Weird, but on the line, kind of. Whew. Getting to test this bike on all kinds of stuff. It is definitely an amazing place to test a bike.
Woo!
This is where I first started feeling the Maven brakes getting weird. Hang around for a more detailed explanation of that later. Phew. It's hard to tell, but this is starting to get pretty darn steep.
That looks like it could be a big drop up on the left. Descender to not a great landing,
Ooh.
in my opinion.
All right, I'm rolling into this drop. Still not sure if I'm going to hit it. I'd like to hit a big drop on this bike, but this is pretty sketchy. Nope, decided it just wasn't worth it on this bike. It was a little bit too weird for me. However, I did end up hitting this drop later on with my Rocky Mountain altitude, and I think the Stumpjumper would have done just fine.
It's Joe on a pretty big drop. Yeah, no problem.
One of the awesome things about testing this bike is we got 2 full days on the Stumpjumper 15 around Glorietta to test it on all kinds of different trails and features.
So I found that during the climb, I'm kind of far back. Like the seat tube is a little bit slack for me. So I have put the seat forward about as far as it will go. And now feels like I'm in a better pedaling position. I'm also a hamstring dominant person, so it makes me feel like I can use my hamstrings more than just slamming my quads. A couple things about these components that I'm really enjoying right now is I actually like this Specialized Mimic Bridge saddle, which is crazy because I never like saddles when we demo bikes. I usually put the cheapest saddles on there. I'd probably look for something in the same line that had a bigger space right here for the old man parts, but otherwise it's very comfortable. Another thing, these Maven silver brakes, I loved them when I reviewed the Dreadnought, but on this bike, the bite point is moving all over the place. I am not a fan. It makes it feel super sketchy when you're trying to control yourself into something gnarly. The transmission, EXO, love the transmission. I would put it on my bike in a second. Those are my thoughts for now.
Now we're dropping into the Holy Moly Trail. This is full of great flow, tech, some jumps, and a couple cool little side hits. Here I'm starting to get used to the responsiveness of this bike. It's what I called twitchy yesterday, and I think it's just getting used to where you need to keep your weight and how fast the bike is going to respond to your input, which is quite a bit different than what I'm used to on my Rocky Mountain altitude.
Nice. It's good to feel what the suspension can take. Oh man, this thing is so poppy. Oh. Doesn't like square edges too much though. I didn't quite get my rear up enough on that rock, and it really snags you up. You can feel it more so on the ups.
What I'm trying to say is that the rear end of this bike really doesn't like square edge rocks. Whether you're going down or up, it really snags you up.
Ooh. Tree.
When we got this snow, it came with some wind, and surprisingly, these are just the first trees that we found over the trail.
Uh-oh, that's even bigger. Wow. Uh-oh. I don't know if we can move that one. I'm gonna try though. Oh, wow. I really wanted to move. It was ready. All right.
Emily and Joe's trail maintenance.
Woo! That was cool. Pulled the brakes so to slow down, and they didn't slow me down. I love all the options around here. Oh yeah, cool. That's cool. My goal is to go slow and then kind of pop over it, because I kind of want to clear it without going too fast. I don't completely trust the runout. Oh, this trail is rad.
In this neutral setup, the responsiveness and playfulness of this bike is hard to beat. I have never really ridden anything like this. And the suspension can take quite a bit. It's impressive for a 150, 145 bike.
Oh.
You know, the bike really feels like a light cross-country bike, but that has a slack head tube angle and enough suspension that has your back when you really want to push it. It's very unique and very cool.
Phew. Oh man, it's a fun bike, it really is.
The light weight of this bike makes it so nimble through things like this. You can just pop over ruts and around turns, whatever you need to. I can't do this on my Rocky Mountain altitude without putting way more effort into it. The difference in responsiveness is alarming. But the question is, will this bike have your back when you make some bad decisions?
Wow, that's cool. It's a hip. Entry's really weird. Woo! That was pretty smooth, but kind of weird.
Hitting a janky feature like that actually felt kind of strange with the lightweight of the bike. I think that a little bit heavier bike can make things feel less sketchy. But I also feel like maybe I could get used to the lightweight and end up loving it.
All right, after 2 days of ripping this bike around Glorieta near Santa Fe, New Mexico, I've got some thoughts on it. Okay, first thing, and something that's really interesting to a lot of people, is this Genie shock. I thought the Genie felt awesome right off the bat. It's got one of the spacers in it. I tried to actually take it apart to put the second spacer in it to just see what it felt like as a difference, even though I really liked it with the one. And I think that's possibly because I'm coming from a coil DHX2 shock on my bike. So it felt way poppier than that shock does. And was thinking that it would even feel more poppier with the 2 spacers in there. But I followed the instructions and could not get the sleeve to come off, and it's not my bike, so I didn't want to spend too much time working on the bike and not riding the bike to get a good feel for it, to let you know what it felt like. So really loved the shock. I think I bottomed it out one time, and it was when I hit a square edge rock as I was trying to hop over something. It didn't quite make it all the way. I did have some pretty good compressions, and the bottom out resistance was really good. I never felt like anything harsh. I really loved the geometry of this bike. The 64.5-degree head tube angle I thought was dead on. I thought about trying one of the headset cups to make it a degree slacker, just because why not give it a shot? But the reason I didn't for this test is there's some technical uphill climbing in Glorieta here, and I was already hitting my pedals on some of the rocks, so I didn't really want to lengthen the bike and lower the bottom bracket due to that technical climbing. But I feel like if I had this bike at a bike park, I would try the slacked out head cup and see if that gave me a little bit more confidence in the downhill riding. Again, coming from a bike that's a little bit slacker than this one, I did feel like I could have benefited from having it a little bit slacker when I was going down chunkier, bigger hits and just like continuous rock garden type of stuff when it was steep. The place where this bike shined so bright was how poppy it was. I mean, it is like 31 pounds. At the blink of an eye, you could load the suspension and hop several feet over something. It was fantastic. It was so lively. It was so playful. It was almost on the edge of like too lively and playful at times, like almost a little bit twitchy. And coming from riding an enduro bike every day to riding this, that threw me off on the first day. But the second day of riding, I felt like I was getting more used to that, and I was able to sit back on my feet a little bit more and realize the bike didn't need quite as much input on the bars from me. And as long as I kept my hands light, I was able to just kind of steer with the rear a little bit more, and that felt a lot more confidence inspiring. Something that did take away from the confidence is the Maven brakes. Man, the bite point was moving all over the place. It was really bad, to the point where if I was going into something, I knew that I had to pump the brake real quickly to get the bite point back to where it should have been, which was fine on a flow trail. You don't really need to have your brakes be that consistent. But on some of the chunkier black and double black stuff where I wanted brake control to be exactly what I was expecting, it threw me off, and it was scary, to be honest with you. I would either have to try and figure out how to get these brakes to be more consistent, or I would just go right to my TRPs, which are my go-to brakes, and have noticed no problems with those over riding them for a long time over tons of downhill. So kind of like thumbs down on those Maven brakes. We didn't get to throw this bike into anything that was super big hits. They have them here, but they're kind of in chunky environments that I wasn't super comfortable taking a rental bike off of, maybe my own bike. So I wouldn't say that I went off anything that was more than my, I don't know, 4, maybe 5 feet in like a drop scenario. But the bike definitely did well. It felt composed. It felt better the gnarlier, higher speed it got. Didn't feel so good, like I said, on the slower technical stuff, but I think it was mostly due to those brakes. And you were off the brakes when you're more high speed, and it wasn't as critical to have that feathering brake control. But the suspension was really right on. I loved the Fox 36. Like I said, I loved the Genie. The carbon wheels felt like it contributed to the bike being nice and light. It jumped great. Not only was it light, but it didn't feel out of control in the air. I know that I've had or ridden a lot of light bikes that feel awesome, and then you go and approach and like push into a big lip on a jump, and the bike feels like it's out of control. This bike felt really good, especially on like those medium-sized jumps, which we got to hit quite a bit today. You could really have a lot of control in them, and I started feeling more and more confident on the bike on some of the things that I thought were a little bit sketchier that I might not have hit yesterday when I was riding the bike, just because I didn't know how it was going to respond. And it's such a light bike, or it not only is a light bike at 31 pounds, but it feels really light too. You know, sometimes you'll ride some bikes like the Norco Sight, for example. It was a little bit heavier than this, but it rode really heavy as well. It rode heavier than its numbers. I would say that this bike rides lighter than its numbers even. It's just so poppy and playful. I'm not great at manualing, but the chainstay length felt pretty good, and I was able to get more comfortable with holding a manual on this bike. That part of it felt great. I had a little bit of inconsistency with pulling into like front wheel pivots, and that was probably due mostly to the brakes than anything else. I kind of like to play with the stoppies around corners and things like that, and I just couldn't get into a rhythm with it on this bike. Another thing other than the brakes that I would swap out right away is I really was not a fan of these bars. I don't know why, I'm just super particular about like the rise and sweep of my bars. I'm riding right now a 38-degree rise Rocky Mountain bar that I just really enjoy, and that's my favorite bar right now. I don't even know if you can buy it, but I think the 35 to 38 degree rise is something that I'm really enjoying with like just how that feels. And the bars weren't like terrible here, but it definitely made me wish that I had a higher rise bar. Last thing I want to mention is I'm 6'1" and I'm riding this S4. I feel like if I was gonna buy this bike, I would want to ride the S5 and get a feeling for if that little bit of extra length when riding downhill was something that would feel good to me. So I'm thinking that maybe on an S5, I would like the downhill capability of having a little bit more confidence, but I could maybe put a shorter stem or even just the higher rise bars on that would make the cockpit feel small, because I like a small cockpit, and this bike felt like it was in a great position when I was climbing. So what I would be trying to do is get a little bit longer bike for the descending, but keep this short, compact feeling even on a slightly slacker seat tube angle when I was climbing. So who's this bike for? I think that this bike is for the person that wants to get super playful on trails at a suspension size of the 150, 145, or even like something like a 160 kind of range in the suspension, and just loves a really lively poppy bike, loves hitting side hits, isn't necessarily leaning towards the steepest, gnarliest stuff, but knowing that once you get comfortable with the bike, you could ride it there and that would be fine. Someone that maybe is gonna go to the bike park just a handful of days a year, that's not where they live at the bike park, but this is totally capable. And like I said, I would throw on that slacked out headset cup and just see what it did. I never felt like I was under suspensioned, but I imagine that you could get under suspension if you went to the bike park. So if your trails are a little bit kind of like mellow blue-black trails with tons of little hits, or even if you like riding like jumps a lot and even pretty darn big jumps, this would be super fun. It's fun to hit the corners hard. It's fun to really get into the air. I would say it's not for the person that is looking to spend a lot of days at the bike park riding super hard charging downhill stuff, although you could maybe set the bike up to do that because there's a lot of adjustability in the bike. It could be a really good one bike. I think that it is. I think it's a really good single bike for somebody that leans towards riding those blues and blacks and likes to be super poppy and playful. A bike that we could compare this to that I've ridden recently is the Forbidden Druid V2, which is in this exact same category, but I feel like the bikes ride completely different. This one is way more lively and playful. You have to work a lot more for the Druid to get it to come alive, but it felt more planted, whereas this one felt a little bit twitchier. But once you got them both at high speed, they both felt pretty darn good, and they both felt like they could take a lot more than what you would think on paper. For this one, a 145, for the Druid, a 130 high pivot could do suspension wise. So if you're looking for one bike, if you like something that is lively and playful, then I would definitely give this a shot. And another shout out to High Desert Bikes West and Peter. Go and check them out if you want to try and demo this bike or you're ready to buy one. Those guys are awesome in Albuquerque, New Mexico. All right, guys, if you have any questions, let me know. Happy to answer any of those things. Have yourself a fantastic day.